You wake up at 5 a.m., you check email before your feet hit the floor, you pour coffee immediately, you dive into Slack, news, markets, and messages before the sun is even up. By noon, you're cooked. You assume it's caffeine dependency. Well, it isn't caffeine dependency, it is physiology. There are three morning habits that are quietly draining executive energy before your day even builds momentum. They look productive, they feel disciplined, and they are socially rewarded. But biologically, they're sabotage. Let's break down what's actually happening in the body. When you wake up, your body initiates something called the cortisol awakening response. Cortisol naturally spikes 30 to 45 minutes after waking. And that's not stress in the emotional sense. That is your circadian system activating alertness, mobilizing glucose, and increasing blood pressure slightly so you can transition from sleep to performance. It's built-in stimulation. Now here's mistake number one. Coffee before fuel. When you pour caffeine into a system that's already experiencing its natural cortisol surge, you amplify sympathetic activation without stabilizing blood sugar. Caffeine blocks adenosine receptors, reducing perceived fatigue. It also stimulates additional cortisol and adrenaline release. That might feel sharp for 60 to 90 minutes, but here's the problem. You haven't provided substrate. No protein, no amino acids, no stable glucose input. Dopamine production depends on tyrosine and phenylalanine. Neurotransmitter synthesis depends on adequate nutritional input. If you rely on stimulation without substrate, you get artificial alertness without metabolic stability. Blood sugar begins to fluctuate, cortisol remains elevated longer than necessary, and insulin response becomes reactive instead of regulated. That 11 a.m. fog, that 1 p.m. crash, that's just the downstream effect. Now layer in stress. If you immediately start reading emails, reacting to problems, absorbing headlines, your brain shifts into threat scanning before your prefrontal cortex is fully online. Your amygdala becomes dominant, you are reacting instead of directing. Energy is not just calories. Energy is regulated nervous system output. Now, here's the second mistake. Blue light overload before daylight. Your retina contains intrinsically photosensitive ganglion cells that respond specifically to light in the blue spectrum. When natural light hits your eyes in the morning, it signals the hypothalamus, that's your master clock. That signal anchors cortisol timing, it suppresses melatonin appropriately, and it sets the rhythm for the entire day. But when you wake up and immediately stare at your phone in a dim room, your brain receives artificial light without the full spectrum of outdoor light. That disrupts circadian entrainment. You confuse the timing signal, essentially, and the result, cortisol peaks may shift. Melatonin suppression may be incomplete. Evening sleep onset becomes harder and deep sleep decreases. You may still log 7 hours in bed, but your sleep architecture degrades. And degraded sleep compounds morning cortisol dysregulation the next day. This is how small habits become systemic fatigue. Now here's the third mistake. Zero cortisol aware structure. Most executives treat mornings like an emergency room. Alarm, phone, coffee, firefighting. You go from parasympathetic dominance during sleep to full sympathetic activation in a matter of seconds. That trains your nervous system to associate waking with urgency. And over time, your baseline shifts upward. Heart rate variability declines, resting heart rate trends upward, and you feel wired but not steady. If your mornings are supposed to be your most productive time, why do so many performers feel depleted before lunch? Why does motivation feel sharp at 6 a.m. but dull at 1 p.m.? The answer isn't work ethic. It's circadian misalignment layered on top of blood sugar instability, layered on top of nervous system dysregulation. And most of it is self-inflicted. Let's answer that question clearly. When you wake up and spike cortisol with caffeine before stabilizing glucose, you create a sharper peak and a steeper drop. When you avoid natural light and feed your brain artificial light instead, you disrupt proper circadian anchoring. When you move from sleep to stress instantly, you train your nervous system into chronic hypervigilance. Hypervigilance burns energy. Now, let's talk about correction. First, fuel before stimulation. Within 60 minutes of waking, consume 30 to 40 grams of protein, eggs, Greek yogurt, protein smoothie. Steak, if that's your thing. Protein provides amino acids necessary for dopamine production. It stabilizes blood sugar. It reduces the magnitude of cortisol spikes by providing metabolic substrate. Caffeine works better when layered on top of stability. Second, get outside. 5 to 10 minutes of natural light within 30 minutes of waking will do wonders. Even on cloudy days, outdoor light intensity far exceeds indoor lighting. That signal calibrates your circadian rhythm. It improves daytime alertness and supports nighttime melatonin production. This is not optional if you care about consistent energy. Third, build a 5-minute regulation buffer. Slow nasal breathing, longer exhales than inhales, light mobility, short walks, standing outside quietly before opening your phone. You're telling your nervous system that waking does not equal emergency. You are preserving cognitive bandwidth for actual strategic decisions later. Now let's add a little bit of depth. Executive energy is not about pushing harder. It's about managing stress dose relative to recovery capacity. When morning habits amplify sympathetic tone without stabilizing metabolism, you accumulate microstress before the day even begins. By noon, you're not weak, you're overactivated. And if this is you, if you pride yourself on discipline but secretly feel that your energy is inconsistent, or if you rely on caffeine to create drive instead of building drive biologically, or if you crash even though you sleep enough, your issue is not ambition. It's system design. Morning physiology sets the tone for the entire day. Your brain runs on glucose and oxygen. Your nervous system runs on regulation. Your hormones run on rhythm. Disrupt rhythm, output declines. Stabilize rhythm, and energy becomes predictable. Predictable energy is the foundation of executive performance. High performers do not need more grind. They just need better inputs. Fuel first, light early, regulate before you accelerate. If you're serious about rebuilding clean, sustainable energy without depending on caffeine spikes and willpower, check the link below for the Executive Energy Reset Blueprint. Or message me directly, I'll help you map out the right starting point. Because the way that you start your morning is either compounding stress or it's compounding resilience. Choose that deliberately. I'll see you all very soon. Take care.